guys, welcome back to Mighty Morphin DJ. I'm DJ, and today, in celebration of the 29th anniversary of Power Rangers, I'm going to count down my picks for the top 10 Power Ranger seasons over the last 29 years. Let's take a look. Alright, let's get things started and kick off with my number 10 pick for the top 10 seasons of Power Rangers Jungle Fury. So this will probably take a lot of people by surprise because Jungle Fury was not very, people didn't love it, I'll say the least, and I remember disliking it when it first came on the air on Nickelodeon, but the more I watched it, the more I really got to like it. No, I don't love the suits, but the weapons were unique. They were, weapons that we hadn't seen in Power Rangers before. Tonfas, nunchucks. It was really cool. A mace at one point. But the main thing about that season that I really loved, that still sticks with me, is a story of growth that's told for both the Red Ranger and for Jared, who would become Daishi near the beginning of the season. Both those characters underwent a tremendous amount of growth throughout the course of the season, culminating in the events of the finale, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So for those reasons, Power Rangers Jungle Fury is my number 10 pick. Alright, my number 9 pick, Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Now again, Ninja Storm was not a season that is beloved by all fans, but I liked it because it was more of a fun season. First of all, Lothor was hilarious. I loved Lothor as a villain. The first three Rangers, Red, Blue, and Yellow, were actually really good. I liked all three of them as Rangers, as characters. The actors that played them did a really good job. And then when Cam got brought in as the Samurai Green Ranger, I really liked that. I loved him as a Power Ranger. And then the Thunder Ninja Rangers was really cool. That introduced for the first time a separate set of Rangers. So we didn't just have the Wind Ninja Rangers, we had the Thunder Ninja Rangers. Finn, what? So these were actually two totally separate sets of Rangers that aired together in the same season, which was unique and we hadn't had it before. So, for those reasons, Ninja Storm is my number... So, for those reasons, Ninja Storm is my number 9 pick. Now, I know a lot of you are probably surprised to see Dino Thunder that low on the list. That's the season that Tommy came back, and I know that is definitely a reason for it to be on the list in the first place, but the reason it's so low on the list is because mostly there was too much fluff as the season progressed. They got too many weird weapons, they got a bunch of unnecessary Zords. I did not like the character of the Red Ranger or the character of the White Ranger. Neither one of them really spoke to me. I didn't care for them. Though everybody says the White Ranger was so cool looking, I didn't care for it. But I really did love that Tommy came back. I love that he became yet another version of a Power Ranger. The villains were really good. And I really loved the Blue Ranger and the Yellow Ranger. I thought both of them were great, and they encapsulated everything you want from both the Power Ranger and the civilian alter ego of the Power Ranger. I also love this season because it had one of the best team-ups of all of Power Rangers when Dino Thunder teamed up with Ninja Storm. And they started off by fighting each other, which was really cool. So I really do like this season. For the reasons I described, it's a little lower on the list, but it's definitely a good pick for top 10, and it's my number 8. Coming in at number 7, it's Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. I really do like this season because it's very different from the seasons we had gotten before. The Mentor is a commander, a former firefighter. This is essentially a military-run Power Rangers operation, which is something we hadn't seen before. I don't love the way the Ranger suits look, but it makes sense for what they are. The story of the Titanium Ranger was pretty cool. I really did like that. The villains could have used a little something more. I don't really know what else I would have done with them, but they could have done something different. The Zords, I don't love, especially the Train Zord. I didn't care for that. And then the Life Force Zord, I thought that was dumb. But the show as a whole was really cool because I liked each individual Ranger. I liked the role that they filled in the show. I liked the background of both Commander Mitchell and the Red Ranger and the Titanium Ranger, Commander Mitchell's son. I really did like this season, and it was really good. It was different. The team up with Lost Galaxy team wasn't bad at all. I did like that, especially to see Kendricks come back as the Pink Ranger after the powers had been held by Corone, aka Astronema, when Lost Galaxy ended. So yeah, overall, this was a good season. I really do like it. It's one that I will rewatch, and it's number 7 on my list. Coming in at number 6, it's Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. I really like this season. Now, I don't think it was as strong as a season as In Space, but a lot of people complained about the suits because of Charlie Brown Stripe. I really like the suits. I think the helmets look good. Yeah, Charlie Brown Stripe, but you know what? I thought it looked cool. It worked. The Lights of Orion was a cool gimmick. I really did like that a lot. The villains were different. They weren't as in-depth as villains from previous seasons, but I really did like them. I thought they were okay for a Power Rangers villain. I've seen worse for sure. I did like all the individual Rangers and the role that they filled. The Magna Defender was, of course, really awesome, really badass. And then Leo's brother, Mike, comes back and takes over as the Magna Defender, and they really wrote that in well, like the way he got the sword and then his first transformation. It was pretty cool the way they did it. That Morphin was pretty convoluted, but it was still cool nonetheless. But the best thing about this season was Corone, aka Astronema, coming in halfway through the show after Kendricks had to leave because the actress who played her had to leave to deal with cancer treatments, and then they just brought Corone's story full circle from being the villain to redeemed to now becoming a full-on Power Ranger in the end of this season. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Overall, it was a really strong season. I enjoyed it. It's one that I will rewatch over and over again, and it is number 6 on my list. Alright, now we're in the top 5, and number 5, Power Rangers Time Force. So Power Rangers Time Force is awesome. First of all, the leader of the Power Rangers is the Pink Ranger. Her name is Jen Scott. She's awesome. She's a badass. She's the number 1 Pink Ranger ever. I love Jen Scott. She's amazing. The character of Wes, the Red Time Force Ranger, he was really cool. I liked his place on the team. He was from the present day. He didn't fully understand everything that was going on at first, but the longer the show progressed, the better of a Power Ranger he became, and the less ego he showed. He was a really good character. I liked him a lot. He really helped the Rangers kind of integrate themselves into the present day so they could do their job. I liked this season a lot. It was really strong. It dealt with a lot of harsh concepts. The introduction of the Quantum Ranger was awesome, and he is to this day one of the most badass 6th Rangers that there's ever been. The character of Wes's dad was great throughout the course of the show. He did kind of do a 180 towards the end of the season, which didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it was still nice to see. The thing that really holds this season back for me is the rest of the Ranger team. The Yellow Ranger, the Blue Ranger, the Green Ranger. Their characters were not as strong. They were not as well fleshed out as everybody else on the show, I think. It's just, they didn't really do a whole lot for me, especially the Blue Ranger. He's a race car driver. That was Power Ranger. I didn't really like it. But then the series villain. Oh my god, that guy was awesome. He had a great backstory. He was portrayed by an amazing actor. He was pissed off all the time. I really like this guy a lot. And then his redemption story that led into Power Rangers Wild Force was awesome. Overall, I love this season. It's one that, again, I will rewatch again and again and again, and I'll encourage you to rewatch it. Power Rangers Time Force is number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list, Power Rangers Zeo. So Power Rangers Zeo is, of course, the very first season to follow up Mighty Morphin Power Rangers after the mini-season that was Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. The theme song was really cool. I liked it a lot. It encapsulated what this new season was going to be while still holding true to the original theme of the show. The new villains, the Machine Empire, they were badass. I mean, it was an entire empire. Now, true, they just, Monster of the Week'd it, just like other villains had done in the past. When they had an entire army at their disposal, they could have just invaded. I don't really understand why they didn't do that. Kind of a hole in the story in my mind. But overall, it was still a really good villain and a really good change of themes. Whereas prior to, the Power Rangers mostly relied on, technology with a little bit of magic to do what they had to do, and their villains always relied mostly magic, would occasionally bring in some technology. Now the roles are reversed, where the Power Rangers their powers are based solely on magic, and they still use a lot of technology, but now their adversaries are completely technology. No magic to be had. So it was kind of a cool reverse of roles. And then, of course, I like the cast. You've got Tommy as the Red Ranger for the very first time. You've got Kat as the Pink Ranger. Kat's my personal favorite Pink Ranger. You got Rocky as the Blue Ranger. You got Adam as the Green Ranger. I love Adam. Johnny Young Bosch is one of my favorite actors to be a Power Ranger. He's awesome. They brought in Tanya, our third Yellow Ranger for the show. I mean, and she did her job very well. I liked her a lot. Alpha was still there, Zordon was still there, Billy was still there as a tech advisor, which I really liked and appreciated. But then they brought in my absolute favorite Sixth Ranger of all time, the Gold Ranger. This guy's introduction was awesome. He came in and he just showed them who their daddy was. It was awesome. Later, they have to transfer those powers to somebody else, and they transfer it to my favorite Power Ranger of all time, Jason Lee Scott, played by Austin St. John, the original Mighty Morphin Red Ranger. Everything about this season was really cool. And then, for the first and only time in the history of the show, at the end of the show, instead of summoning the Zords to beat the baddie, the Rangers grew big and fought the monsters whilst being as big as a building. It was cool. So overall, yeah, this is a great season. It was a great follow-up to Mighty Morphin, and I'll rewatch it. You know, Power Ranger Zeo is number 4 on my list. Alright, now we're getting into the top 3, and my number 3 pick for the top 10 Power Ranger shows is Power Rangers RPM. RPM was the final installment of Power Rangers during the Disney era, and it was awesome. The dialogue was good, the acting was good, the story was good, the theme and the plot was good. Everything about this show was good! Except the Zords. I didn't love the Zords. But that couldn't be helped because that version of Sentai was actually meant to be a comedy. So America was like, we're going to just make this as badass as we can. I mean, this was one of the best seasons of Power Rangers ever. I mean, it was like Mad Max meets Terminator meets Power Rangers. It was amazing. So overall, everything about I watched the season. You don't need to listen to me talk about it. Watch the season. Power Rangers RPM was really good. Everything about this season was strong. They did try to mirror the brother-sister aspect that was shown in Power Rangers in Space. But other than that, it was one of the strongest seasons they'd ever put out, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Alright, speaking of in space, my number 2 pick is Power Rangers in Space. This was such a good season, especially when compared to Power Rangers Turbo. It just completely turned things around for the show, brought it back from the brink of cancellation. You had the brother-sister aspect between Andros and Astromeda, which got developed throughout the course of the season. That was amazing. TJ, the former Red Ranger, coming in as the Blue Ranger and taking the reins as the second in command of the Power Rangers was just such a good transition. This is why TJ is one of my favorite Power Rangers ever. The man was just unstoppable. Not to mention, we came to Blue Ranger, he got an axe. Axes are automatically cool. The show brought back the classic red, black, blue, yellow, and pink color scheme from the original Mighty Morphin, which I really appreciated. They brought in the 6th Ranger and the Silver Ranger, the first Silver Ranger we'd ever gotten, in the form of Zane. His introductory was, kind of unceremonious, but he was still cool nonetheless. I did like him in the show. And then, of course, the season villain, Astronema. Oh my god, she was awesome. She gets introduced as a badass. Now, throughout the course of the show, her acting needed work, but as the show progressed, it got better. And then watching how the story progressed throughout the course of the season was really good until it culminated in the final battle. Also culminating what I consider to be Bulk and Skull's grand finale, when these two have made the transition from, inept bullies to leading the charge against Astronema's forces in the climactic battle. I mean, it was such a good turnaround for those two that happened over the course of 6 seasons. Bulk and Skull were 2 of my favorite characters of Power Rangers ever. Never ever duplicated, no matter how hard they try. Power Rangers in Space was just such a good season, and it would be my number 1 pick if it weren't for my number 1 pick. And of course, here we are, my number 1 pick, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Duh! Mighty Morphin Power Rangers debuted when I was 8 years old. It was just an amazing show. It blew every little 8-year-old's mind. I mean, it introduced all the concepts that are still there today. Live-action superheroes, giant robots fighting giant monsters, unique weapons for each ranger, a wise sage for a mentor, a uniquely silly but still blatantly evil villain, bringing in an evil Power Ranger halfway through the first season. Everything about this show was just really, really good, and it's still good to this day. And then throughout the transition from the Dinozords to the Thunderzords, Lord Zed's introduction, and Zed is still to this day the most badass Power Rangers villain in the history of the show. They're bringing him back for Season 2 of Dino Fury, for crying out loud. What does that tell you? And then the transition from the Thunderzords to the Ninjazords and the new ninja powers, which I like the way they did it in the show better than the way they did it in the 96 movie. Nothing wrong with that movie. Ivan Ooze was awesome. I really did like the idea of going to another planet to get the ninja powers versus the Desert of Despair, but I think those are two concepts that could be blended together in a future iteration of Power Rangers if they ever decide to reboot it. But overall, it was just such a good show start to finish. Everything about it was good, and throughout the course of Mighty Morphin, it just kept you on the edge of your seat, and it wasn't until Zeo that things started to wane a little bit. And even then, Zeo was still a great season. So there it is, my picks for the top 10 Power Ranger seasons of the last 29 years. Do you agree with my picks? Let me know in the comments below. What season would you have picked as one of your top 10, or even top 5? As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. Please click that notification bell to receive notifications of future videos. And as always, this has been Mighty Morphin DJ. I'm DJ, and you know what time it is.